I was going to ask you, I didn't see it up there, so I don't think it was something we brought up. Like arcade one-up and all the newer, cheaper arcades. I want your opinion from what do you think of them, first of all? And then I also want to know, did it play into any downward spiral for you guys for a while where people like, hey, yeah, arcade one-up's the next big thing. Did your guys' sales go down? I want the whole...
I'll just say we did have it as a topic, which is basically like you could maybe roll into this, Chris. Like, what is the future of what is like the future of the arcade machines in pinball?
I worded it better.
Current status of arcade one-up.
Include arcade one-up in that, but like
we let Chris produce this one.
Like opinions. So
I want opinion.
My opinion.
Arcade one-up.
Arcade one-up. A money grab for somebody who had a good idea for them, I guess. I mean, to me, some of the most cardboard made pieces that it's kind of ridiculous.
So you think they're junk?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty much of that. It's hard to, I'll say yes for me because you asked my opinion.
Yep.
It's my personal opinion. I'm not hurting for space wise, like if I want to have an arcade game. And so it's hard to say, it's totally crap because some people, that's the size space. So somebody filled a niche. So now I have to really like the guy who created a niche. He said, there's people that need this small footprint. So hats off to him for making the arcade one-up and bringing it to market. It's tough to do. And I know from other experiences I've had in different parts of the coin-op industry, I know the chances you have to take and what you got to roll out for Arcade One-Up when they first came out, what you have to put up to make that successful, because there were a lot of them that came out.
Yeah,
Arcade One-Up created like this whole rollout. And where do they roll them out at? What stores?
Walmart.
Big box stores? Walmart. To get into Walmart, to do anything like that.
That's true.
Well, okay, it's hard. Walmart, traditionally and historically, is set up and designed they'll bankrupt the small guy. Small guy with product. You just think about it. Walmart says, okay, we want 10,000 of these or 20,000 of these, right? Boom, we take them out. But Walmart has this whole really strict return program too. But say they want 20,000 of them on your dime, your capital, and they'll take 6 months, 9 months to pay this back. Oof. All the while, you may be getting hundreds of returns. I mean, it's a real commitment. So I hand it to them for working out deals where obviously Arcade One-Up's still in business, right?
Yeah,
they just came up with more of them.
They are in a weird spot right now where like they're making the latest thing they came out with is like a photo, like a self photo thing that would, like the photo booths, like a full size photo, but it's like a little thing that goes on a countertop.
So
and
they somewhat pivot, right?
They pivoted, and people are complaining about it. They have a claw machine that came out.
Claw machine.
I don't know if it's a licensing thing. Like they kept redoing the Mortal Kombats over and over and over again.
Part of it's a license, but at the same time, I mean, they must be making money. It's like a whole numbers game for them, and that's why I mean, the stuff is cheap. It is by far barely home version quality.
They must have found somebody within the industry to be able to like pretty much upfront that money and find a manufacturer and a distributor to create good margins. You
get investment capital from one of those BlackRock or whoever. I mean, you get some.
But I mean, if you're making it like IKEA quality, that's kind of what's going to turn out.
If you're making IKEA quality, then you're probably backed by some Swiss IKEA guy that just knows the whole thing about folding a game up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you that I thought it was. I tip my hat to the guy that created it as well. But I like original cabinets.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
And I really don't. I'd be surprised if the owners of Arcade One-Up were actually like started as collectors or really liked arcade games. I think it's a money thing.
You know what I want to do? I want to cut to I really like the old ones. Just have Chris kicking the arcade machine.
I mean, I do own some Arcade One-Ups.
Oh yeah, you have a bunch
in my store because they are convenient for space.
Yeah.
But I think one reason why they might like they're creating different things and pivoting now is I wonder I really tip my hat, like, and maybe you could comment on it, Chris, like what the licensing process must have been to contact Konami, Midway, like Bally's, whoever they got the rights to make those games must have been a whole process. That's
Jam?
where the money is.
Well, NBA Jam was Midway, but most all those licenses are under like an umbrella, one umbrella.
Like a parent company?
Yeah, there's a parent company that owns a lot of those. So I think to get everything that you see on like Arcade 1UP, because, and I think that a lot of it's Namco. Like
maybe
company Namco is like,
they're big.
Oh, yeah, they're like Acme. Like, Acme's on Bugs Bunny and all that.
Yeah, they own
like
everything.
Acme company is Namco Bandai owns so much
Bandai too
of that market.
Yeah.
Well, now I had to ask the other part of that question was, did it at first? Because I know there was hype for it in the beginning. Did it affect your business at all in any way?
Not at all.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that the customer base has always been fans of like commercial grade, collector quality,
Heavy duty.
Yeah, I mean, just the traditional arcade stuff. So everybody kind of has that same mentality of Arcade 1UP. And if you want one, you can always just go buy one at the store.
Did you ever buy one?
No.
Would you sell one at auction if somebody tried
I
to bring?
have sold them.
I was gonna ask you. What did you think when they brought it in? You're like, you.
Of course, I was. Well, the personality aside, I'm like, oh, really? Some of them I look at them all, really?
But I mean, there are some of them that are worth money because of their like a limited run.
Right.
The Supreme Mortal Kombat one is worth some money.
Supreme,
the brand, yeah. I think that one's like $2,000. That's the most expensive.
Oh, it's like a Spy Hunter?
But that's Supreme, right? Like a Super Spy Hunter?
So what did they bring in? Which cab did they bring in? Just like a generic Pac-Man or something?
The one that's got like, there'd be like 10 games on it. I think I had a countertop one last month. And yeah, the guy came in to get it. And I think I sold it. It was like $50.
Wow.
And it was a countertop one, about, I don't know, 24 inches tall. And it's just, regular joystick. And then it had choice of games. It was kind of like the, like Pixel Bash almost. It had like 10 or 12 games on it. It was Arcade 1UP. And it had that cheap, you got the power box in the back.
Oh, the cheap little
5 amp, 0.07 millis or whatever. And somehow the guy came in to pick it up. And the cord was gone. And they have those cheap, almost like any one of these cords could
any generic
plug in,
cord
right?
from a light.
It's like a DC 12 volt or something like that.
Yeah, the thing is, if you grab the wrong one just because that little pin fits, I mean, you could blow it up. And I'm like, but it seems like the biggest challenges I have comes with games like that, an Arcade 1UP. And it's like, because I do not like giving people their money back.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, it didn't work out. It
probably
didn't
easy to
sell
ship,
or whatever. Yeah, it's easy to ship.
One guy.
But he's right there to pick it up. And it's just like, he just stood there on top of us until we found a cord. And I found a cord. I think I decommissioned a camera or something in my office. I'm like,
yeah, we powered up the Marvel vs. Capcom cabinet here with an e-bike charger.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I was like, well, and it worked.
There we go.
If you fast forwarded 20 years from now, do you think there would ever be value in those Arcade 1UPs, or will they be collector's items in the future, possibly, if Arcade 1UP went under?
If they go under, and if 90% of the people either destroyed them, threw them away, or because they are kind of like built like, if your kids are rough with them or whatever, they're not going to last. I mean, they just delaminate and fall apart.
They do.
And, they only weigh a couple pounds. So if you get upset and you lose, I mean, you could literally throw it through the window.
Yeah, you can't kick them like you would a regular. It'll flip.
I mean, they're made out of particles.
No, but you could stomp it into the ground. I mean, you can. I could kick one apart.
I will say, from moving, like running the expos, we run Retro World, and we move our 60 machines, and you've moved 1 million arcade machines. When I comes to I see an Arcade 1UP, and I go, oh my god, it's like a blessing to just pick it out, 2 hands, and just move it. It weighs only about 15 pounds.
They are
it's as light as can be.
Super lightweight.
Do you think the Arcade 1UP will go under?
If they keep evolving and coming up with some gimmick, eventually, I don't know.
I do.
You think they will go under?
I do.
Well, I think as a whole with the miniature games and everything, I think that kind of will lose its way. Store, everything's kind of a fad.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to stuff that's like mass produced, bought at Walmart, whatever, I mean, the collector value, maybe not in our life.
Yeah.
Maybe your kids or something when you're 80 and you go, oh, yeah.
I played that at my
arcade
friend's house.
You've been running having a auction house since 1999. What do you see like the future now that you've been like in the arcade industry? What do you see the future of arcade machines and pinballs as it goes forward?
I see the fact in collecting. I mean, obviously, it's interesting to think like what the next generation's going to come up like. I mean, I'm used to a lot of collectors being, let's say, around my age. I mean, you guys are all, in your 20s and stuff.
Thank you.
I'll take that.
I know.
But I'll keep it.
I'm in my 40s and I'm a collector.
I guess what I'm, no, I know there's plenty of collectors, but then I think down the road, it's like, if that, what's that generation called now? Like
The newest generation?
XYZ.
I think they're Gen Alpha.
Yeah,
Alpha?
yeah,
Is it Alpha?
I
I've
don't
never
keep
even
up
heard
with
of
the
that.
whole
I think
like.
Gen Alpha is right now.
yeah. It's like
Gen Z
millennial
now?
Z and then alpha.
You're Gen Alpha?
So-
I think my
What are you talking about?
I guess
Still
as long as there's plenty of like enthusiasts, kind of like you guys, like me, like people out there. I think it's going to be fine. Like
Yeah.
going forward, it's kind of like passed down. I do hear a lot of space or minimalism and all that kind
But all
of
that
leads
stuff
to and
Yeah.
it comes and goes. And I just think that there's always a natural like appeal to arcades and
For sure. Yeah.
and to pinballs. I think a big thing that makes arcades probably even more of value going is kind of like light bulbs going away, CRT monitors, the
Going
originals
up in
like that.
value
They
now.
come back
they're
and everyone
expensive
wants
now.
it.
Yeah. I mean, they're expensive and they hold a lot of value, and I think they keep a lot of interest because it is kind of like the new old school, thing. I think for the next at least 20 years,
What we've talked about on the show before within our world with video games, and same thing with you guys, is we're lucky enough to be in a generation where YouTube exists, to where there's always going to be channels and people talking about this stuff.
Right.
So it will always kind of keep a churn of like viewers coming and going, oh, I'm not into that, but that is cool.
Right.
And before you know it, they're into it. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. Have you ever had like dude, I'm so hoping you did help with this, but like movies reach out to you like, hey, can I get a ton of arcades just to film? Like Tron Legacy, that whole pinball thing. I'm like, all I could think was like, dude, Chris probably did that.
Well, I didn't do that one.
All right.
I've been approached. I've actually sent games out to sets. I've had some different companies that have approached me about possible site, like doing something on site, whatever, as far as movies or TV. But I have done some work with television and with movies as far as providing props,
Renting out props.
renting out games. Having them shoot is another thing. I've done a lot of shooting as far as we've done some indie episodes and,
Sweet.
I do my YouTube channel. We stream all the auctions and stuff there. But yeah, I'd love to see a movie shoot there even, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
That'd be sick.
whether it's the pinball room or even in the warehouse, just rows of games set up. It's kind of cool. But, I don't want them to shoot them or blow them up or anything. You know what I mean?
What do you think the most popular arcade game, like for Nintendo, it's like Mario Duck Hunt. Like that's probably the most popularized video game in the cartridge world of Nintendo. With arcades, is it like a Pac-Man cab? Is this like the most everyone played Pac-Man?
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, everybody did play Pac-Man. That's probably a top one. I think probably one that a lot of people would talk about, and I think everybody that had a chance to play it, but to almost feel the gravity of it, you'd have had to be there, was I remember when Dragon's Lair, okay?
Just
Big
playing
one.
it the other night.
Right. When Dragon's Lair came out, we're used to like 8-bit
we
and
played it.
early arcades, right? And you're playing there's some great games. Berserk. Have you ever played Berserk?
Robotron. Robotron.
Robotron,
Awesome.
yeah.
Robotron's awesome. It's just two handles, and you're just constantly going, which follows into Smash TV. You know, it's like all these cool like action games. But in the 80s, then you had those games, Joust, different Williams games were really cool, Asteroids and all that. And then all of a sudden, you've got this interactive cartoon.
Yep.
It was like the first game where you were actually like watching a cartoon and you're participating in
really
it.
what it felt like.
What year was it? Like 83, 84?
I think it was 83.
Which is
I
so,
think so.
early.
Look it
Like
up.
that's like vector graphics. And we
So
were literally
that's
just
where
playing
I'm like
it.
kind of putting myself back to there, like when I just remembered going, I mean, it was like, what? Because it's hard to like, it's kind of like, what would you describe?
83.
In 83, right? So you put yourself in that spot because it's kind of hard because you've seen and been exposed to like all this tech and everything, right? Since then, and then when you first saw Dragon's Lair, it was like, all right, this is cool. But when you don't know nothing, it was kind of like when I first got a cell phone.
It's
It's kind of like,
know nothing.
you know what the first cell phone was, man? It was like a
flip
backpack.
phone.
It was like a sat phone.
No,
I thought it was like a
Talking about the
I'm
car
talking
phones.
about
that
a
sat
backpack.
phone, man.
Yeah, it was like a sat phone.
I mean,
yeah.
I compared. I think we've compared that story many times. Like I grew up with my dad playing Atari, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is cool, Dad." And then when I got my Nintendo underneath the Christmas tree, and all of a sudden was playing Mario, it was like mind blowing to go from Atari to Mario.
So how about earlier than that? Back to your guys' cartridges and stuff. We had our black and white TV, and then we bought Intellivision.
Oh, yeah.
And got the Intellivision with the Scotch tape, and we put the vellum up on the TV, right, and played the games on there, and that was like amazing. When did it? Yeah, like I was like, I'm never leaving home. This is like this is the most amazing stuff
First
ever.
game ever was technically, wasn't it two like submarine guys doing like sonar waves back and forth to each other?
It was. Well, I think the first game really was Pong, right?
Yeah, and that's basically Pong. But I think
Basically,
it was their way
most
of playing.
Most games were basically like Pong in the beginning. They just
So
were.
many
different
Pong.
skins.
Follow a white dot with a skin. You just put a different skin on it, and the white dot's going to go somewhere else.
And people were blown away by that.
Oh, well, I mean, there was nothing to compare it to.
Nothing.
You weren't coming from something to this. This was like the newest thing.
1958 was when they started doing that.
58.
I think Bear, B-A-E-R, what's his name? His first name, Bear. He's the founder of video games. Rob Bear. I think he died. Ralph Bear.
Was it Ralph Bear?
Ralph Bear.
So was he into psyops or what?
Yogi Bear. Guys,
I
remember it was like,
believe like games and stuff were built under like kind of like psyop pretenses.
what's that, Polybius? Is that the one with the myth?
Yeah, Polybius. I've sold a couple of those too.
Really?
Yeah.
They say that they were being used to like mess and
Like
gather.
brain control people?
Yeah, because I had first heard about that when they brought the first one in, and they were like, "Just be careful with it." Be careful with it.
Was it supposed to be Germany that was doing it, or Russia?
I don't know. No, it was us,
Look it
man.
up, Curtis.
What?
Oh my God,
What?
I really want to see this.
Polybius.
Maybe
yeah.
maybe it,
Poly.
maybe it worked, and then all Russia has to do is like finally click the button.
There it is.
There it is.
We're
Polybius.
all under mind control.
Game. There you go. Polybius. There it is. Urban legend. Okay, what's the urban legend officially? The game
Fictitious
was used
one.
as part of a government-run crowdsourced psychology experiment
Yes.
based in Portland, Oregon.
Correct.
The gameplay supposedly produced intense psychoactive and addictive effects in the player. These few publicly staged arcade machines were said to have been visited periodically by men in black.
Dang, Will Smith
That's right.
was there.
Will Smith was there. He slapped the machine to the purpose of data mining machines.
And it says the game was popular to the point of addiction, which is what they wanted.
Have you ever sold one of those?
Yeah, I've sold 2 of them.
How much do they go
I
for?
want to try it now.
Yeah.
They were pretty cheap, actually. I don't think anybody really wanted it because they didn't, really want the urban legend.
You know what you should
in
have
their
done to
home.
build up the hype? You should have hired 2 guys dressed in black to just walk around by it, and they'll be like, "Oh, I saw that."
I could barely do it because I was playing it when I was selling it.
Got it.
And I really didn't want to sell it.
Look at this.
Because I was addicted to it.
Look at the side effects of gaming right here.
What's it say?
It says players supposedly suffered from a series of unpleasant side effects, including seizures, amnesias, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dear Lord,
Night
it sounds like one of
terrors.
those commercials when it
I
like you
get that
take a
from
pill.
watching the news, bro.
Like you get side effects: stroke, cancer, diarrhea. It's all those.
Yeah, but I felt all those things when I was doing the auctions before I had like this fixed spot.
Yeah.
And the first one of those that I sold, I used to be on like a 3-step ladder, and at the auction there'd be like 150, 200 people at the auction, like my auction in the building there. They'd be they've just filled the aisles for these games. It's because I was giving free tacos.
I came when you used to give free tacos.
Yeah.
You still do that?
But I sold that
No, like-
polybius game, and I was like, really selling on the fact of, be careful with this game, all that. And I'd be like, I don't know, you guys, I'm kind of feeling, like weird. and it had a weird attract sound to it. The attract modes on it are really like trippy. So
I feel like the lore would draw people to want to buy it.
I kind of want one now.
well, it does, but at the same
Sounds kinda
time, I
awesome
mean, every
story.
movie that you see where the people tempt fate and they take that thing home and then they're chased around the house by a little
into
miniature
a
tiki doll
gizmo.
with a steak knife.
Yeah.
It's like it turns into something
Perfect
that
idea
calls
for a
you.
movie right there.
Just like you see the Twilight Zone episode where
Which one?
Let's see. Oh,
Talking Tina?
no. I forgot the guy's name, but it was a slot machine that was coming after him.
Oh,
it
I
was
think I know
about
what you're
it was
talking
about
about.
slot machine. It was
look that
about
up.
gambling addiction.
Oh, dang.
The Twilight Zone, yeah, they get into it with a
I
lot of
love
stuff.
the Twilight Zone, by the way.
What was his name? It was it kept calling him like Harold.
Is it an arcade or pinball?
No, it was
Slot
it was
machine.
a slot
Slot
machine.
machine.
The pinball is actually a game, and it's
There it is, Franklin. I think the Fever. Yeah. I think it was the Fever. Franklin Gibbs. Yep, they're staying in a Las Vegas hotel. So it was kind of like
Put it in the background on YouTube. Just look it in the background, bro. It'd be nice to look at.
Franklin. But yeah, it was Polybius was kind of like that. Just it had that kind of like droning audio.
What was the gameplay like?
Gameplay was it was like a maze, and kind of like a maze. What do you call it?
There it is. Look at that. Just
Yeah,
typical.
Franklin.
Just
They're at the
sweating.
dunes.
Just
Yeah.
sweat. I must win. I must win.
See, and then the thing is, he's playing, but then
That's Ricky at the swap.
like
meet.
his last coin.
Debating.
Got to go to the ATM again.
I'm gonna have Blake.
Then he's
watch
like,
this.
I am
He's been going to
totally
Vegas
not.
a lot.
I'm like, I'm totally not into this wedding. I totally am. All I'm thinking about is a slot machine. And now he tells his wife, no, you can't.
Wow.
And then he's
Dang.
thinking, Franklin's like, what up? You're going to spend your last dollar on that?
Commentary with
Yeah.
Chris.
I don't want to get copyrighted, so that's why I have it.
See, you can't play this.
One of my favorite pinball machines is Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah.
That's
It's
one
an
of my
expensive one.
It is a great pinball. I actually have one. See, there's Franklin. He's like, see, I'm that way, man. It's like, oh, boy.
Are you, look at the sweat.
He's
Just says
sweating.
so much.
But they just showed a scene with him. He's laying there in bed, and there's a stack of coins on the nightstand next to him, and it's just calling him like Franklin.
It's really cool that when a show like this, even without sound, they're
See,
doing.
here it comes.
Man, it's a lot.
Could you really?
There was something on the bottom of the wheel. I was like, yes.
It's like total addiction. That's what the whole underlying.
But
thing
even with
is.
no sound, you totally get a clear picture of what is happening in the episode. It's
100%.
really cool, man.
Twilight is so timeless too. It feels
I feel like the
Twilight
best
Zone is
ending
unreal.
to this would be he keeps losing, then he dies, and then somebody comes and one pull hits it.
Well, I think
oh, torture.
Torture. I know.
now they're all like, "Sir,
They're like, stop it. You have
that's a
problem."
roll-a-top slot machine too." And I had a guy who offered me one to put in this sale. I think I'm going to have it for next month. Is one of those roll-a-tops.
Ooh.
They're actually very cool, like mechanical slot machines.
Have you ever sold from the movie Big the Zoltar? Zoltar.
Yeah. The fortune tellers. I have sold some
Those are
fortune tellers in the
cool.
auction. They are really, really cool.
I think there's one on the Huntington Beach Pier. I think there is a Zoltar. Yeah, there's a Zoltar out
Ben
there.
goes there every night to get his fortune read.
Let's go.
The great part about having it at the auction is I open up the door. If I don't like the fortune I get, I look in the stack and I'm going to find one that I really really like. But there's a couple of different types of like the Zoltars, and the one from Big, love
pull
to
it up,
have
Curtis.
that one.
Type in a big Zoltar in YouTube. It's pretty cool. That used to creep me out. That was a very dark scene for me as a kid. I remember always thinking, "Ooh,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this gave me the full heebie-jeebies."
I forget. Does he get a bad fortune or good fortune?
His
from it?
fortune, he basically gets to become.
Yeah, he gets to
Oh,
be
that's what
grown
he
up.
causes
Yeah,
it
he's
all.
big.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot
Yeah, yeah.
about that.
Look at what Curtis is typing right now.
Big Zoltar.
Down the
There
not the
he
wicked
is.
one. There
This
it
one?
is. Yeah.
Oh, dang, they made it
Zoltar.
extra creepy in that movie.
Yeah,
huh?
they did.
I forgot that scene.
Not with premium, bro. Look at that hairdo.
What's up?
Ben, take it off.
No. That was a pharmaceutical commercial, man. Don't laugh at that person. What happened to you? Oh my gosh. So there's Zoltar just hanging out.
Look at all their-
like results, sales results. I'm not quite sure the name, but I know that there's one that tracks all the eBay sales for arcade games, so you can see historically, how much something's sold for on the average. And then, of course, for video games, I actually have my own source within my software that gives me data on all the games that I've sold since
Wow.
2010.
I would say, I mean, KLOV, I've used that site before. It's kind of clunky in my opinion. Like what we use for video games is pricecharting.com. And
Okay.
what Ben is asking about, like, I've kind of wanted to bring that up to you, like that data, like there's value in that data. I
Oh,
feel like.
100%.
Yeah. Like if
So
you
like-
were to make
so
a
like-
site out of that.
So like Beckett has a magazine, right, that does like sports cards, so you can do that. There was one that was a coin op trader that did keep that, and I don't know, people that maintain those, they've really got to be up on internet tech to keep it non-clunky. Like KLOV is kind of clunky. The internet pinball, the database for pinball,
Pinside.
Pinside is similar and probably the closest for pinballs because they do give you a price range.
Pretty good.
And it's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, I like Pinside.
But the internet pinball database is kind of like clunky. It does have info, but no pricing.
Well, I feel like somebody to come up with the price guide like that would have to be somebody like yourself, because in my opinion, your sales are probably the most true. Versus if I'm buying off OfferUp
Right.
and I went and got
Yeah.
bought a machine off of Ricky for $2,000, who was ever tracking that first
Right.
off?
And to say it's actually like legitimate. Same with eBay or any of that. You can go
eBay's-
off sold prices, but
They're sky high for some reason too. It seems like a lot of times.
you don't know if that's actually real.
Yeah, and you
or
never
not.
know if it's real.
You really don't. And the fees, some people just for advertising, they'll close out their own auction as a sale, you know,
Yeah.
just to keep like a
Even on
value. of it.
OfferUp, you can make a listing.
There's
and
been
go
many
buy it
times
around.
when I've gone to look at like a machine, like, I don't know, something weird, like a Bloodstorm. You know that game, Bloodstorm? I've had one before. Like, if I wanted to get the value of what a Bloodstorm is worth, like, the only way I could probably get that value is to be like, Chris, have you ever sold a Bloodstorm? What's it worth?
And
'Cause
then I go click, 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 and I can actually
Yeah.
look it up if I've sold one.
The Simpsons one?
And, I could, well, I don't have it on my phone, but I do have the software that's, 14 years worth of game data that I've sold,
be nice to type in a
which
name.
also
and see
includes
those.
all the games that I sold at the museum in Banning, which was 1,328 games that I sold out of there.
Man, I just
Jeez.
thought of a new business name for him. Captain's Charting, dude. Jeez Louise.
Starting.
The
yeah.
company.
charting waters.
That's right.